שלום רב מרחבת הגלריה לאומנות בוונקובר, 163 ימים בשבי חמאס, 134 חטופים. העצרת למען שחרור החטופים.
Covering a story in France and saying what happened to Dreyfus is going to happen to every one of us if we do not have a land of our own. And at that point, the concept of returning went from prayers to a political ideology, and Zionism was born. And as my dear Muslim colleague reminds us, we then went back into the land that we had always been in. And we watched. Yes, there was a Balfour Declaration. And then we watched as the British lopped off 78% of Palestine and formed the first Palestinian state. It's called the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. And still we said, okay, we'll deal with the other 22%. And we were prepared to negotiate with that, but unfortunately, the other side didn't come to the table. What they did do was declare war on us the day after our Ha'atzmaut declaration. 5 Arab countries said no to Israel. And I don't know if you've looked at that war, but it was by the skin of our teeth that we existed in June of 1949. But we did, because of resilience, because of courage. And then we saw again and again attempts to eradicate us, to obliviate us from off the map. The decision had to be made by a general, Yitzhak Rabin, alav shalom. Was he going to commit 85% of an air force to take out the Egyptian Air Force? Because if he failed, we were done. But you know the story and the miracle. But that did not stop others from invading and others saying, no, you do not have the right to exist. And to this day, we're the only nation in the United Nations in which there is a call that we simply disappear. Are we going to disappear? No! Absolutely not. And every day we have the courage of those young men and women who stand in our stead, defending the borders, looking for the hostages, doing what they can to protect innocent Gazans. Yes, they are doing what they can to protect innocent Gazans, but this is war, and it is a horrible, horrible thing. I know of resilience personally, having grown up with anti-Semitism from the time I was born in some godforsaken little town called Galt, Ontario, now called Cambridge. I don't know why my parents took us there, but there was anti-Semitism that I had to deal with. And then my family ultimately comes to Toronto, thank God. And I grow up, and now I have to decide where I'm going to go to university. Am I going to go to the university that rejected my father in medicine because he was Jewish? My father said to me, Butcher, so if you don't go to the University of Toronto, which university in Canada do you think would have accepted me? And the answer is that there was none when that quota system was there. Ultimately coming here in 1980 to a little congregation on West 10th. And then the phone call came in on January 25th, 1985, around 1 o'clock in the morning. It was the fire chief. Rabbi, your synagogue has been firebombed. Was there anybody inside? I said, God willing, no. And thank God there wasn't. And my president and vice president, we ran to the shul, They were still putting out the fire. We ran into the building. Of course, they were crazy and yelling, "What are you doing?" We had to bring out what we could of the remaining Sifrei Torah. The congregation said, "We will continue," and we have. And so we built on Oak Street. And the community has gone from strength to strength. And my successor has done an unbelievable job in keeping that up, Rabbi Dan Moskowitz. But it's not just Dan, it's all of Rav. When Rabbi Solomon and I formed the Rabbinical Association in 1981, there were 3 of us. Now 8 of us went to Israel in December. We are a strong group. We are there for you. And we are there for you because we get strength from you. Week in and week out, we are here. When my synagogue was firebombed in 1985, the mayor of the city at the time was Mike Harcourt. Mike was a tremendous friend. And he and his wife gave the first donation for the rebuilding of Temple Shalom on Oak Street. And he was furious that this happened because bring them home! Bring them home!
Now, thank you so much, Rabbi. So our next speaker, I'm so happy to introduce Pat Johnson. He's a non-Jewish writer and activist. He has been writing for the Jewish Independent newspaper and its preceder, the Jewish Western Bulletin, for almost 30 years. He has a long history in cause campaigns, including anti-racism, LGBT plus rights, interfaith and multicultural dialogue, and he's the director of Upstanders Canada, which aims to mobilize non-Jewish Canadians against anti-Semitism.
Thank you, Daphna, not just for inviting me today, and I don't know if that's because it's St. Patrick's Day, but for inviting all of us here every Sunday. It is so important. Toda Rabbah. I was not born into this community, nor did I convert. I just showed up here about 30 years ago like a stray dog, and you took me in. As someone coming from the outside, but especially coming from a background of progressive left-wing activism, from the gay community, from anti-racist activism, I have had the opportunity to see, to hear, and to understand events from a different angle. When I showed up in Vancouver's Jewish community, I had no idea about the depths of the familial, spiritual, emotional, and personal connections between almost every Jewish person and the state and the land of Israel. And I think this is what you probably have discovered in the last 5 months. Most people just do not comprehend what Israel means to Jewish people. We need to share that story, but we can only share that story if other people will listen. And this is the problem. Because the people who need to hear it are too busy chanting to listen or to understand. Many British Columbians fail to understand why a former cabinet minister is claiming anti-Jewish bias, while so many of her colleagues, who have apparently invested no effort into exploring the many forms anti-Semitism can take, steadfastly insist there must be some other explanation. Israel is the national embodiment of the Jewish people. To attack Israel is to attack Jews. Here is the bigger issue. The people who are marching against Israel, they are not helping the people of Gaza, and they sure as hell are not making the world a better place. The only thing they are doing is making Canada a more dangerous, toxic, and intolerant country. Hateful words against Israel are inciting violence against Jews in Canada. And when we express concern about this undeniable correlation, we are accused of conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, as if that distinction makes a damn bit of difference to the victim of a hate crime. Words of hate lead to acts of hate. We understand this when it comes to any other group. But when it comes to Jews, people are willing to employ the most dangerous, inflammatory, and incendiary rhetoric and let the chips fall where they may. But it is not only Jews and Israelis who are under attack by these radical extremists. It is the very essence of what it means to be Canadian. It is our core national values that these activists betray. Day after day, we see shrieking, crazed mobs shutting down events, screaming obscenities, and threatening people who are trying to live their lives, commute to work, go to the theater, attend synagogue, or get an education. The person you should be hearing from is not me. Selena Robinson was invited here today, but it was not safe for her to come. What does that tell you about the state of civil discourse in Canada? You have seen their rallies. You have heard their chants. Do those look to you like people of peace? No. They call for Israel to stop defending itself, but they refuse to demand the one thing that would immediately end the war and all this dying, the surrender of Hamas. On these steps, days after the pogrom of October 7th, people stood here and celebrated murder, rape, beheadings, and kidnappings. We mourn, we grieve every single life, every single innocent life lost. We do not celebrate dead innocents. Neither do we tally up the bodies in a grotesque competition where the side with the most dead wins moral victory. And even if some of the people who march for Palestine do not celebrate beheadings, do not applaud rape, or rejoice at mass murder, they are absolutely content to march alongside people who do. Those who on these steps called those horrific, inhuman atrocities brilliant and amazing are not only part of a movement that is holding human beings hostage. They are holding hostage humanity itself. They have abducted words like peace and ceasefire, freedom and human rights, but they desecrate these values. Canadians have allowed people who align with the most misogynistic, homophobic, xenophobic, violent and totalitarian forces on earth to masquerade as voices for justice and equality while accusing us of humanity's greatest crimes. If these people were genuinely advancing human rights and social justice, they wouldn't need to cover their faces in keffiyehs and balaclavas. We need to figuratively show Canadians who these people are. But maybe many Canadians don't care about a conflict halfway around the world. But the violence, coercion, intimidation, and racism these people embody is a threat to Canada, to our civility, our peace, our multiculturalism, and our political discourse. The threat does not come only from the goons marching in the streets. It also comes from some of our elected officials, including some who until very recently we thought were our friends. It comes from the trusted teacher, from the activist clergy person, from the crusading union leader, from the self-righteous politically engaged artist. Meanwhile, far too many Canadians have stood on the sidelines while extremists have taken over our streets, our campuses, our community theaters, our high schools, our public service. Maybe they don't care about Israelis. Maybe they don't care if the Jewish people lose their country. But when they wake up and see that Canadians have lost ours, Jewish Canadians and their allies will be asking, where were you? Where were you when we were standing up for the values that Israelis and Canadians share? Where were you when we demanded, bring them home?
Bring them home! Bring them home! Bring them home! Bring them home!
Because if you are not standing with Israelis against extremism, you are emboldening extremism in Canada. This is not about choosing between Israelis and Palestinians. Unlike the extremists, we want peace for everyone. This is about choosing between civilization and barbarism. And we need to ask every Canadian, which side are you on?
Johnson, our friend. I'm happy to introduce our next speaker. Michael Lee is the MLA for Vancouver Langara. He went to preschool and grew up at the Jewish Community Center. Michael is a strong friend of our community. Michael, please.
Well, I just wanted to first start off by saying that to Rabbi Bregman, thank you for bringing, as you do often, such powerful words and a reminder to the history of the Jewish and Israeli people. And when I reflect on Rabbi Bregman's words, and many others, his colleagues, there are so many learnings that we don't have as a society that I thought we would have learned by now. And this is the challenge. The repeated mistakes, misunderstandings, and misconceptions that we've seen with the history of the Israeli people for thousands of years. This has been a challenge for us as we look forward, particularly since October 7th, in the period that we exist and live in. And to Patrick, thank you for your clarity of perspective. Because it is about our civil society in Canada. It is about the values that we have as a country and as a nation. And I know that among many of us, elected representatives and other community leaders, leaders of the Vancouver Police Department, and thank you again to VPD for being here today on this plaza. And thank you to all the security volunteers in the community who do this every week to keep us safe on this plaza as well, and many of these other rallies. Because staff know you're right. It shouldn't be the case. And I'm going to get to Celine in a moment, but just to say, this should be a safe place for all of us to express our voice and our concerns and our hopes to bring those hostages home. I was invited as a state legislator to join state legislators from the United States and Canada and Germany. I just came back last night. I was there for about 5 days in Germany. And we were talking about critical infrastructure, but I can tell you that the perspective of what's happening in Europe, the United States and Canada, when we see all of the anti-Semitic protests and movements, the extreme right in Germany, the challenges that we've seen, and what nations need to do to stand up against it. This is just a reminder as the kind of leadership we need here in Canada. I know that it's on many of your minds as to what might occur tomorrow in Ottawa on this vote. It's misguided and wrong. And I hope that as you express your voice to your MPs and members of Parliament on all sides of the aisle, that you'll express and utilize your voice to encourage them to vote against that motion. At the end of January, I had what was an invitation by the consulate of Israel in Toronto, as they and others have invited other community leaders and elected representatives to see the raw footage of the October 7th Hamas terrorist attack. And as Patrick said, even as I had the opportunity to speak in the Legislative Assembly in Victoria after the October 7th attack, in the days that followed, when we talk about acts of humanity against humanity, I cannot describe in words what I saw, and I know many of you unfortunately have had to see similar footage on social media. It's the clarity that we need to understand as to the terrorism and the acts against humanity that Hamas have perpetrated against Israelis and others on October 7th that we need to continue to remember. It's the reason why so many of you come here week after week to remind others of what has happened, to have the clarity to bring the remaining hostages home, the 163. This is the reason why we need to support you in doing so. Many of you may have heard me speak before in my roles. And those roles in the past have included being the critic for the Attorney General. I am now the critic for the Attorney General again, the last 2 weeks. In my previous capacities, as you would know, I have been standing very strongly and clearly for the full adoption of the IRA definition of anti-Semitism here in this province. I speak to you today to share with you my reflections on where we are as a province in that, because it's important to you. It's important to your parents, your grandparents, your children, all of you in your neighborhoods to feel safe on our streets, for your children to feel safe at university, UBC, SFU, Langara College, and elsewhere. But the IRA definition of anti-Semitism provides the kind of clarity that Patrick talked about. As we know, one of the illustrative examples is that denying the right of Jewish people to self-determination by calling the state of Israel a racist endeavor is an example of anti-Semitism. That is an example, as we know in the IRA definition, that relates and situates what the state of Israel represents with the Jewish people. It's this lack of clarity that's existing that we need to continue to have clarified. It is the reason why when Canada adopted the IRA definition of anti-Semitism, they should know what they're talking about. They should know the framework in which they cast this vote tomorrow. It is something we need to remind them of. I wrote letters to the Attorney General in December asking her to ensure that the IRA definition was being utilized in Crown Councils in their charging and prosecution of hate crimes on our streets. I asked her to update the hate crime policy. She did do that 10 days ago. But that hate crime policy doesn't do more than that. There are no new tools there, as much as the current government would suggest so. We need more than that. We need the Attorney General to direct Crown Council to prosecute the criminal code violations which are anti-Semitic and hate crimes, incitement of public violence, which are anti-Semitic in nature on our streets. This is the reason why. On the day that Selena regrettably announced her departure from the NDP government caucus, I was in Attorney General estimates asking the Attorney General about this again. When I asked her to point to one single action this government has taken to implement the IRA definition against anti-Semitism in BC, she could not point to one single action. I would not typically speak and make this statement until now, because Selena now has left the government caucus. Selena has been, as I said in question period in the day that followed her departure, she has been the single ally for the Jewish community in that government caucus. She had to take the step outside of that government caucus in order to express herself independently, which is what she's doing. It is deeply regrettable. It's the reasons why even in October, as some of you may have seen, I spoke and recognized her leadership. We need her leadership in the community. I am very disappointed, like so many of you here today, that she's not able to be here with you. But she is with you. You know that. Selena has always been with you. She will always be with you. As difficult as it has been for her to depart the government caucus, I know how broken up she has about it. The non-Jewish day schools, there is anti-Semitism there in our classrooms. We have to stamp that out. The IRA definition means something. It should be applied in our Vancouver School District. And we see these challenges in the healthcare sector. We see these challenges in the public service. We need that independent investigation that we've been calling on, particularly since Selena's departure. We need to ensure that we root out any anti-Semitism in our public service. These are examples of the kind of steps we should be taking. So your voice is very important here. Your voice does matter. To be resilient means continuing to stand up, to continue to find the allies in our province, in our communities. Those allies are there. Just like the Jewish community has been allies to many racialized parts of our community, including the Asian community. We have seen your friendship. We have seen what you have stood for in terms of our human rights and against racism. We will continue to stand with you. And I will tell you, that the only reason why I continue to do the work that I do politically is because I have the support of my entire caucus. And that is Kevin Falcon, the leader of the BC United, and our entire BC United caucus. I say that with some sensitivity because I know that I'm very sensitive to not in ensuring that the Jewish community itself is not made to be a political football. I understand that. I just say that to you because a few of you have made this comment to me about how I'm a lone wolf. I am not a lone wolf. There are other supporters of yours in the government, including in the government caucus and the cabinet, quite frankly. So I've heard from them. You have other friends and allies. And I hope, just like you, when you stand here and speak, we all have a decision to make. Patrick, you're absolutely right. This is a critical time where we have to speak out to protect our democratic principles, our civil society, to stand with the Jewish community, to stand against the Hamas terrorists, and to bring those hostages home, and we will continue to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Although Selena cannot be with us today, she did send some words she wanted to speak on this plaza. I'll just give a bit of introduction to Selena, and Camille will read her words she sent to us. Selena Robinson has been the MLA for Coquitlam-Redwall since 2013. She was a cabinet minister for the BC government since 2017, first the Minister of Housing and Local Governments, Finance Minister, and the Minister of Post-Secondary Education. Selena was forced to step away from cabinet in February because of an ill-worded comment about the land of Israel pre-1948. Earlier this month, Selena decided to leave caucus to sit as an independent member of the legislature because of the double standard applied to her as Jewish woman and government silence about the increasing anti-Semitism. Please, Camille.
My friends, I'm sorry that I could not join you in person for safety reasons, but I thank the organizers for sharing a few words on my behalf. My heart has been with all of you these past 5 months. I join you in seeking the release of the hostages now. I join you in seeking peace. Peace for Palestinians, peace for Israelis, peace for us all. I am told the theme for this week is resilience, and so I have spent the last few days reflecting on my own resilience. As the lone voice in government, speaking up for the Jewish community, and how difficult it had become while others remained silent. I also focused on how much more difficult it became after I was forced to resign, feeling punished for speaking up against Jew hatred. I reflected on where the strength, the koach, came from to persist when it would have been so much easier to be silent, to fade into the background, to go along with the others, and to pretend everything was okay. So from where did I draw the strength? It came from different places. A husband outraged that his wife is poorly treated by her colleagues, forced from a role she loves, and now who keeps a baseball bat in the bedroom because others are threatening her life. A son who stopped going to the gym shortly after the massacre on October 7th because the Port Moody gym owner and city councillor decided that putting up a large Palestinian flag in her gym, demonstrating to the world that she suddenly cares so deeply about a complex geopolitical conflict thousands of miles away, is more important than the hurt this causes friends, colleagues, and customers. A daughter who now must find significant financial resources to make sure the Jewish children in her care are safe this summer. My strength has also come from the 2 Jewish professional women who, as the requirement of their jobs, came to hear the throne speech at the legislature in February. They were forced to find a safe route into the building as there were dozens of protesters aggressively calling for a unilateral ceasefire and the destruction of Jews. The physicians who refused to train Jew-hating UBC medical students. The teachers who organized to push back on the Jew hatred we are seeing at BCTF. The people working in the public service who are telling their stories of intimidation, like being told that their Jewish star necklace is a symbol of genocide. Resilience for me comes from the countless stories from people who talk about being fearful at work, from Holocaust survivors who say it's happening, from Holocaust survivors who say it's happening again. Resilience comes from Jewish community leaders and volunteers who are doing everything they can to keep programs running, to push government to do the right thing, to care for their congregants who are scared and worried, and who lead by example. Resilience comes from the emails and letters from hundreds of people, Jewish and non-Jewish alike, who remind me that even though I felt alone in my caucus and in government, I was not alone. I am not alone. We are not alone. Many were seeing what I was seeing, what we are seeing, and are prepared to stand up to Jew hatred. Resilience comes from reaching out to others who are hurting too and finding out that they want to help heal our wounds together. Resilience comes from seeing the October 7th survivors of rape and torture pick up their pieces of their lives. It comes from seeing Israelis gather once again to protest their government. It comes from so many of you who have reached out with words of support, encouragement, and love. Resilience comes from us gathering our collective strength as we lift each other up and remind ourselves that we are not alone, that together we will find the strength to bring peace.
Thank you, Camille. Richard and Mia? We'll end the ceremony with Richard and Mia. Knows we are marching today, because I see some people putting back their flags and posters. We are marching today.
When I grew up, I had big city dreams. I wonder if the Bible was wrong. What the hell are they teaching me? I was lost in thought, and I could not hide it, but the sound it kept on rising, so I played along. 'Cause now that you're gone, and I write down this song, how it's meant to be. The wheels touch down, all I can see is your face. I miss the sound of the night. The last thing on my mind was my faith. And then the morning came and the sun started rising, but I was missing my friend. So how do I carry on? 'Cause now that you're gone and I write down this song, I don't believe this is how it's meant to be. The church bells have ring, you can hear the morning sing. I still believe this is how it's meant to be. Like a mother bird crying hard for its young, I sing loud, but all the night in the love. 'Cause now that you're gone and I write down the song, I don't believe this is how it's meant to be. The church bells have ring, you can hear the morning say. I still believe this is how it's meant to be. Oh, oh, how it's meant to be. Thank you very much. תודה רבה. I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, a baffled king composing hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Come on, everybody. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the you, and the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to her kitchen chair, she broke your throat and cut your hair, and from her lips she drew the hallelujah. 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 Well, people, I've been here before. I walk the street, I walk this floor. I used to live alone before I knew you. And it's not a cry that you hear now. Love is not some victim march. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
true. I didn't come here to fool ya. And even when it all goes wrong, I stand before the Lord's arms. There's nothing
Hallelujah, 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 Thank you very much. Toda rabba, everybody. We're going to do the anthems. I'm going to start with the Israeli anthem. Kol od balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homiya ulfatem nizra kadima ayin letzion Sophia עוד לא תקוותנו התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון ירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון ירושלים. Thank you. Let's get ready for Canadian anthem. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, and all of us command. With glowing hearts we ride the rise, with true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mia. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. You both did it. We need some people to pick up the banners.
All right, everyone, we're going to get ready to go in a few minutes. For those of you who haven't done this before, we just ask a few things. First thing, again, we want to thank the VPD for coming out here today.
And we ask that everyone please stay together. Please leave 2 feet from the yellow line on Georgia so the police brigade can come up and down and keep us safe. We also ask that you stay off the sidewalks. Again, stay together as a group. And if anyone comes and starts yelling things at us, we're not going to entertain that. We're better than that. Let them stand there and look nuts. We're going to keep walking. Am Yisrael Chai. Let's go.
Yeah, this is how Yahweh wants me to work. And that's him, and that's me. And in a way, that's all of us. That's our situation, right? Great job.
Guys, thank you for making it happen.
But he's bringing together these.
What's your better than last week? Huh? What's your better than last week?
Are you here every week?
Yes.
אנחנו נסיים את הלייב הזה כאן ביוטיוב. 3 דוברים מצוינים, פאט ג'ונסון, עיתונאי לא יהודי, נמצא המון שנים בקהילה שלנו, שדיבר על מה ההבדל בין אנטישמיות לאנטי-ציונות. מה ההבדל בעצם בשביל הקורבן, אין שום הבדל. סלינה רובינסון, שהייתה שרה להשכלה הגבוהה כאן ב-BC, הייתה אמורה להיות כאן, אבל משיקולי ביטחון לא הצליחה להגיע, או לא יכלה להופיע בעצם. מישהי קראה בשמה את הדברים. ומייקל לי, מועמד מטעם המפלגה השמרנית, כאן ב-BC, גם הוא דיבר, לא יהודי, תומך בקהילה, ואמר, אתם לא לבד, יש כאן עוד תומכים חוץ ממני. אנחנו נסיים את הלייב הזה. 163 ימים בשבי חמאס.